You checking out online? $40 shirt. Not bad. But then a little message pops up right below the price. Or 4 payments of $10 each, interest-free. And something shifts in your brain. The shirt didn't get cheaper, your bank account didn't grow, nothing changed except how much it hurts to buy it. That feeling you just lost, it has a name. Behavioral economists call it the pain of paying. And the entire buy now, pay later industry, Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, all of them, was engineered from the ground up to make that pain disappear. This isn't a payment method, it's a psychological machine. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works, who it's really built for, and why the math is breaking for millions of people who use it. Let's start with what BNPL actually is, because the way it's marketed is a masterclass in misdirection. On the surface, it sounds almost too reasonable. You buy something, you split the cost into 4 equal payments spread over 6 weeks, and you don't pay any interest. Sounds like a better deal than a credit card, right? And that's exactly what the companies want you to think. Around half of young consumers now say they prefer BNPL over credit cards. They see it as the responsible choice, the anti-debt option, the modern way to manage your money. But here's the part they don't put in the ad. BNPL is not a payment method. It is a loan. You are borrowing money from a financial company, and they are paying the merchant on your behalf. The reason it feels different from a loan is because it was specifically designed to not feel like one. Think about what happens when you apply for a credit card. You fill out a form, you wait for approval, a physical card shows up in the mail. Every step adds friction, and that friction gives your brain time to process what's happening. You're taking on debt. Now think about BNPL. You click a button at checkout. That's it. No application, no waiting, no separate card. The decision to take on debt happens in the same moment as the decision to buy the thing, and that is not an accident. BNPL providers embed their software directly into the checkout page. When Klarna tested putting their option on the product page itself, before the customer even reached checkout, conversions increased by up to 40%. They moved the lending decision earlier in the process because the earlier you normalize debt, the less it feels like debt. To understand why this works so well, you need to understand a concept from behavioral economics called temporal discounting. Here's the short version. Humans are terrible at weighing the present against the future. A reward right now always feels more valuable than the same reward later, and a cost right now always feels more painful than the same cost later. BNPL exploits both sides of this bias at the same time. You get the product immediately, reward now, you push most of the payment into the future, cost later. Your brain processes this as a better deal even though the total price hasn't changed by a single cent. But the real trick is even sneakier than that. It's about how BNPL changes your perception of your budget. Researchers at the Central Bank of Ireland ran an experiment where they gave participants a fixed budget and asked them to shop. Some could use BNPL, some couldn't. What they found was that BNPL users didn't just spend more, they fundamentally misunderstood how much money they had left. Because the full cost hadn't been deducted yet, their brains treated the remaining balance as available cash. They looked at their budget, saw a bigger number than they should have, and kept shopping. This is the core engine of the entire industry. BNPL doesn't work because it makes things cheaper. It works because it makes spending feel cheaper. The pain of paying formula is simple. The cost of the item divided by what feels like your available resources. When you see 4 payments of $10, your brain doesn't process it as $40 leaving your account. It processes it as $10. The pain drops by 75%, but the cost stays exactly the same. And that gap between what you feel and what you owe is where the profit lives. But wait, you might say, if there's no interest, how do these companies make money? Great question. 2 ways, and neither of them is as clean as they want you to believe. First, the merchant pays. Every time you use BNPL, the retailer pays the provider a fee, typically 4 to 6% of the sale, sometimes up to 9%. That's double or triple what credit card processors charge. Retailers accept this because BNPL users spend more. Average order values go up, cart abandonment goes down. The merchant is essentially paying a premium to access your reduced pain of paying. And who do you think absorbs that cost? Over time, it gets baked into the prices everyone pays, including people who never use BNPL at all. And the second way is late fees, and this is where the interest-free story starts to fall apart. According to a February 2026 tracker from lending.tree, 41% of BNPL users made at least one late payment in the previous 12 months. That's up from 34% the year before, a 7-point jump in 1 year. Late fees vary by provider, but they add up fast, especially when you're juggling multiple loans at the same time. And here's the detail that really puts this in perspective. 62% of BNPL borrowers have more than one loan active at the same time. A third of them are running loans across multiple different providers. So you've got one payment due on Klarna this Friday, another on Afterpay next Tuesday, and an Affirm installment the week after that. No single dashboard shows you all of them. No unified statement, no total balance. The industry has a name for this invisible pile of debt. They call it phantom debt or ghost debt because it doesn't show up on your credit report, it doesn't appear in your credit score, and until very recently, no lender could even see it when deciding whether to give you more credit. You could be drowning in BNPL obligations and still get approved for another one. That's not a feature, that's the design. Now, there's an argument that BNPL is fine for discretionary purchases. If you want to split the cost of a new jacket or a pair of headphones, maybe that's a reasonable tool. But that's not how it's being used anymore. 25% of BNPL users are now financing their groceries. That's nearly double the rate from just a year ago. Among Gen Z, it's even higher, 1 in 3. Let that sink in. People are taking out 6-week installment loans to buy food that they will eat before the second payment is even due. When you finance a consumable, something that's gone before you finish paying for it, you're not managing cash flow. You're borrowing against future income to cover a basic need today. And if you miss a payment on that grocery loan, you're now paying late fees on eggs and bread. This is the clearest sign that for a growing number of users, BNPL isn't a convenience tool anymore. It's a symptom. It means income isn't covering expenses, and instead of making that gap visible, BNPL makes it invisible, wrapping it in a clean interface and 4 cheerful installments. 62% of BNPL users believe using these services builds their credit score. Most of the time, it doesn't. The major BNPL providers historically haven't reported on-time payments to credit bureaus. That's starting to change. FICO is building the models that will incorporate BNPL history, but right now, for most users, paying on time does nothing for your credit. Missing a payment, on the other hand, increasingly does hurt it. So the upside is invisible, and the downside is permanent. Let's zoom out and look at this from 30,000 feet. The global BNPL market processed roughly $560 billion in transactions in 2025. It's projected to hit $700 billion by 2028. In the US alone, nearly 90 million people used BNPL last year. And yet, this entire industry is just now starting to face real regulation. The UK won't have BNPL under full financial regulation until July 2026. In the US, the CFPB has proposed requiring credit bureau reporting and clearer disclosures, but enforcement is still catching up. Australia is bringing BNPL under its Consumer Credit Protection Act, but not until later this year. For comparison, if you wanted to get a $500 personal loan from a bank, you'd go through a credit check, income verification, and formal disclosure of all terms and fees. If you wanted to rack up $500 in BNPL debt across 3 different apps this afternoon, you could do it in about 4 minutes with no hard credit check, no income verification, and no single document showing you what you owe. The system is designed so that the easiest form of credit has the least oversight, and the companies providing it are growing at 20% a year because that design is working exactly as intended. I'm not going to tell you to never use BNPL. It's a tool, and tools aren't inherently good or bad. But the system is designed to make you underestimate the cost, overestimate your budget, and take on obligations that you can't track. So if you're going to use it with your eyes open. Before you click that button, ask yourself one question. If this wasn't split into 4 payments, if it was the full price right now, would I still buy it? If the answer's no, then BNPL isn't helping you afford it. It's helping you ignore that you can't. Check your per-unit math. That's the real price. And keep a running total of every active installment you have, because no one else is going to do that for you. Buy now, pay later was sold as the alternative to debt. Turns out, it's just debt with better branding. If this video changed how you think about BNPL, drop a like. It helps more people find the channel. And subscribe to Sysplain because every week we pull back the curtain on another system that was designed to work against you. I'll see you in the next one.